Welcome to Elevated Sports. I'm Kyle Johnson.
I'm Billy and Mack.
We are back because this is the future right here. We're going to be going over our team's drafts. So I'm going to be talking about the Patriots draft, and Billy's going to be talking about the Bucs draft. We're just going to kind of go pick by pick, round by round, the different players that were drafted, talk about some pros and cons of each player, what we're looking forward to.
Before we get into it, an initial reaction, the Patriots draft. What grade would you give them?
Initially, I think I would have given them, I don't know, like a B minus. So I wasn't super thrilled. I was really hoping there were a couple players. I was hoping for like a solid wide receiver.
When I was thinking about that's the thing. I asked you that because initially when I did my winners and losers, I had the Patriots as a loser.
Okay.
And as I was writing it, I was like, I feel like I may regret saying this because Belichick can just throw anybody on the field and win. So I'm interested to see what the Patriots where they go with what they drafted.
Right. So I mean, originally I was pretty disappointed in the draft. I'm not gonna lie. They focused heavily on defense and offensive line, with the exception of 2 tight ends. So I mean, I wasn't thrilled because they need receivers, and I was hoping for maybe at least another option at quarterback other than Jarrett Stidham. So initially I was disappointed, but actually after going over their picks and watching some highlights and kind of seeing what these different players offer, I'm kind of excited about it now.
All right. Well, let's go first round. Patriots did not have a first round pick.
Well, I mean, we did, but
they did, but they traded out as you predicted they would. Kind of. You didn't want them to, but you're like, I feel like Belichick's going to do it.
Yeah.
So I get we'll start with me since I have the first round. The Bucs they drafted Tristan Wirfs, the offensive lineman from Iowa, who was like probably the most athletic offensive lineman in the draft. I know that I think you predicted that he would get drafted by the Giants, and they took Andrew Thomas, who the Bucs were planning on, who were likely going to take him.
Right.
But Wirfs fell to pick 13 with the Bucs, and the Bucs originally had pick 14, and they drafted up. A lot of people were like, "Well, why'd they draft up? The Niners wouldn't have taken him." But as you watch the rest of the first round, guys, teams like the Dolphins, Saints, and Falcons all picked offensive linemen, and you got to think if you were in their shoes, knowing the Bucs were going to draft an offensive lineman, seeing that they had the next pick, they may have tried to draft up to 13. So the trade, in my opinion, was actually a pretty solid trade. Got Wirfs, got their guy. Obviously, the offensive line was what was their priority in this draft. I absolutely love the Tristan Wirfs pick. I think it was a steal that he did not go, in the first 10 to the Giants, or I forget the other team that drafted offensive lineman or he may have been the second guy to go.
I think the Browns. It was either the Browns or the Jets drafted Mackey back then, I believe.
Oh yeah, so he was the third offensive lineman to go. I'm pretty sure, which was a surprise. I thought
because Jedrick Wills went as well.
So he would have been the fourth.
I believe he was the fourth one, yeah.
So yeah, I mean that was an absolute steal for the Bucs that he went that high or low. Obviously was on the top of plenty of people's lists as far as offensive linemen go. So I'm excited to see him on the offensive line for the Bucs for sure.
Right. Something interesting about that as well. You look at the events that followed in like day 2 and day 3, specifically day 3. The 49ers trade for Trent Williams because Joe Staley was announced that he was going to retire. So you think, the Bucs probably had some kind of information into this, and had the Bucs not traded up with the 49ers and switched spots there, had the 49ers not felt comfortable that they could get Trent Williams, they probably would have taken Tristan Wirfs there themselves because they knew they were going to lose Joe Staley.
I agree, for sure. Yeah, Wirfs on the line is going to be a huge, huge solid to the Bucs and Tom Brady. Definitely think they won with that pick.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
So the Patriots had a second-round pick. Do you want to go ahead and talk about that one?
Yeah, we had 2. So the first one was safety Kyle Duggar out of Lenoir-Rhyne. Ryan. I didn't really know much about him. I was kind of confused about that pick when there was like other good safeties on the board.
I
I
think a
guess,
lot of people are confused.
right? So he's a pretty versatile player. One thing I noticed watching some highlights was that he was dangerous once he got the ball in his hands. I think he had like 6 punt return touchdowns. He played 5 years at Lenore Ryan. 1 game in his second year due to a meniscus injury, and then 7 in his senior year due to a hand injury. He had 237 career tackles, which was pretty good. Um, it was D2 football though, there were times where he would say that he was kind of like bored with the competition. So I'm interested to see what happens, whether his athleticism translates to the NFL. One player that he reminded me of would be Mark Barron, former Bucks
Okay.
safety linebacker, now plays for the Rams, I believe. Kind of like a safety linebacker. He plays, multiple different positions. He's got the size to be a linebacker, and once again, he can play special teams as well.
Yeah, that pick, obviously, you look at the pick and then you're like, who the heck is this dude? What the heck is that school?
Right?
But I don't doubt that the Patriots and Belichick use him. So I was just surprised they didn't go wide receiver first round, to be honest.
So was I.
All right, so going back to the Bucks, another great pick in my opinion. Antoine Winfield, safety out of Minnesota. I guess the concerns were offensive line and secondary, and that's what they did for the first 2 rounds. Winfield, electric on the defensive side of the ball, probably one of the best safeties in the draft. Could have gone first round, in my opinion. But another guy that fell to where he did, and the Bucks took advantage of it. Went to Minnesota, teammate with 5th round pick that we will get to, Tyler Johnson. Bucks fans, honestly, this is probably the pick that they're most excited about. People were just going crazy when we landed Antoine Winfield. So I'm excited to see him play as well. And last year, towards the second half of the season, the secondary did improve, but you do have some injury concerns and some guys that aren't quite at the level that the Bucks would want them to be. So I personally think Winfield can jump into the safety position and be the best player in the Bucks secondary from day one, to be honest. That's how high I am on him. So Antoine Winfield, hopefully he's going to have a great career with the Bucks.
No, I absolutely agree with that. The Patriots made their second round pick before he was drafted, so that was one person. I'm like, wait, hold on, why didn't we take Antoine Winfield?
Yeah, they could have got him, yeah, for sure.
So I don't know, but I do think that's a great pick for the Bucks. Unfortunately, it wasn't the Patriots.
So Patriots had another second round pick, correct?
They did, yeah. So with their second round pick, they picked Josh Uch out of Michigan. I really like this pick because he already has chemistry with Chase Winovich, who is an edge rusher for the Patriots. And Josh Uch is listed as a linebacker, but after watching his highlights, you realize he's more of an edge rusher than he is a linebacker. He's really good at getting into the backfield, but he struggles in coverage. I wasn't super impressed with his coverage skills. But he had 15 and a half sacks over his final 2 seasons at Michigan. And he's pretty disciplined on the line when it comes to like run stopping and getting into the backfield after the quarterback. So I'm excited about that. But yeah, his coverage skills are a little worrisome.
3rd round for the Bucks, we had running back. So first 3 rounds, we checked all the boxes: offensive line, secondary, and running back. A lot of people were not sold on who we picked, though. Keyshawn Vaughn from Vanderbilt played 2 years at Illinois and then went to Vanderbilt. I think he can be a very good complement to Ronald Jones, because obviously this offseason, Bucks have he's going to be our guy. So from what I've seen, he does a little bit of everything. He can go out and catch the ball. He can run the ball outside or inside. He's even a pretty good pass blocker. So he can do a little bit of everything. Is going to be a solid complement to Ronald Jones. So I think with people, who the heck is this guy? I think you need to pump the brakes and definitely give him a chance because he's not going to be obviously he's not going to be our running back one, but I think he's going to be able to provide some solid play to the run game. Haven't gotten the chance to watch too many of his highlights, but from what I've seen, kind of a guy that can do a little bit of everything.
I like the pick. I think it's a good pick too. I really like the Bucs' first 3 picks. I think they did great. So the Patriots had 3 third-round picks actually, and with their first of the 3, they drafted another linebacker. And you kind of see them drafting these linebackers because they lost Kyle Van Jamie Collins, and Landon Roberts this offseason. So that was three pretty big linebackers that they missed out on. I'm going to start out. So first pick was Anthony Jennings. He was a linebacker out of Alabama. I'm going to start out with a comment on him. So he suffered a season-ending knee injury in his sophomore year. But when you look at his stats over the seasons that followed, he had a good bounce back. He didn't kind of but he actually got even better. So that was encouraging to see. He had 194 career tackles and 15 and a half sacks. One thing I noticed about him, other than different from Josh Uche, is that he was a little bit more of a pure linebacker. He could rush, and he was also pretty good in coverage. There were, watching his highlights, there were multiple times where he would get up to the line and he'd be, trying to get at the quarterback, and the quarterback goes to throw, and he gets up and he swats the ball. So he's not just a rusher, but he does a little bit of everything. You saw him fake the rush and then drop back into coverage and pick it off a couple times. So I like the pick. I think they only gave him a C+ for the draft rating, but I like the pick. I like the pick a lot.
Do you want to go over those other third-round picks?
Yeah. So the next 2 third-round picks, they were both tight ends. The first one was Devin Asiasi out of UCLA. He only had 1 full season where he started. And he had good speed for his size, and he has decent hands. He had 44 receptions in that season that he started, but he only had 8 catches in his first 2 seasons, and he's not great at blocking, and he doesn't really use his body to catch the ball. And they're all teachable things, but he needs to learn those things. The second tight end, Dalton Keene out of Virginia Tech, I believe. Impressively, he only had 1 drop his entire college career, and he didn't have a single penalty in 2019. And he's pretty versatile. He can go play different positions. I believe he played running back at some point, plays tight end. And watching his highlights, you see him go up and win the ball quite a few times, but he didn't produce huge stats. He's not like a big receiving threat. He can go, he can catch the ball, but he's not one who's just dominating the game. He's not a Rob Gronkowski who's going to just completely wreck the receiving game.
Is that on their third rounders?
Yeah, that's all the third rounders.
I'm still just really surprised that they didn't go wide receiver with any of those picks.
I am too, and they did. So I'll get to it a little bit later, but they did have 1 undrafted free agent signing specifically that has me kind of excited.
4th round, the Bucs did not have a pick. We actually originally had 2, but one of those went to the Patriots in the Gronkowski trade, and the other one went to the 49ers. So I'll jump to our 5th round pick.
Yeah, we don't have a 4th rounder either.
Okay, there we go. 5th round, probably another. This is another one that Bucs fans are they're just drooling over. Tyler Johnson, wide receiver out of Minnesota. Personally, looking at his highlights, looking at his stats, he could have gone 2nd round or 3rd round. Not sure how he fell so far. Extremely happy the Bucs were able to take advantage of him. Can be, obviously he's probably going to be the 3rd wide receiver on the team behind Mike Evans and Chris Godwin. He could play in the slot, which is really good. Have Mike Evans and Chris Godwin on the outside. Throw Tyler Evans on the inside, and then Gronkowski there. I think this pickup I think it takes the Bucs passing game to the next level. So definitely excited to see Tyler Johnson on the field now. But with these 5th through 7th round picks, this is where I could have seen the Bucs going with a quarterback or someone else for the secondary.
Right.
I absolutely love that we landed Tyler Johnson, but at this point in the draft, I think you still had Jake Fromm and Nate Stanley available as quarterbacks. Although Jake Fromm may have gone fourth round, I'm not totally sure. But you still had a few quarterbacks available that that they could have taken. Like I said, I'm not mad about Tyler Johnson. I'm extremely excited about getting him on the field. But this is where I could have seen them going quarterback or another guy for the secondary.
No, I like the Tyler Johnson pick. I think they needed to take him there, or else he wasn't going to be there.
Yeah.
But then you also saw receivers like James Prochet out of SMU, and I know he was getting a lot of praise during the draft for being like a very solid receiver. So I think, even if they didn't get Tyler Johnson there, they still could have got a guy like James Prochet. I don't think he went to like the 6th or 7th round. Did the Bucs have any more 5th round picks?
No, that was their only fifth.
Okay, so the Patriots had 2 5th round picks, none of which I'm super excited about. One of them was a kicker, Justin Rohrwasser out of Marshall. He's received a lot of flack already about his tattoos.
I have seen that.
As I don't know what to tell you about him.
Hopefully he's a good kicker.
Can he kick the ball? Anyway, in 2019, he went 18 of 21 on his field goals, with one of those being blocked. He went 35 of 36 on his point after attempts. And his season long was 53 yards. Prior to that, he went 15 of 20 field goals at University of Rhode Island, which is where he went before Marshall. He went 39 of 40 on point after attempts. Trying to find stats and highlights on a kicker, not easy. I mean, it's basically just him kicking the ball every single time. And I feel like if you look at just the numbers, that's good enough. So that was Justin Rohrwasser, our new kicker. And then the second one, not super thrilling at all. He started every single game in his final 2 seasons at right guard for Michigan. It's Michael Onwenu, but I watched his highlights and I wasn't blown away by anything. There was never a game or a highlight where I was like, man, he just totally dominated that. The defender didn't stand a chance. It was always just like mediocre. And even like I saw a couple of his highlights and it was literally just him pulling to the other side of the field, and he didn't touch a single soul, but they called it a highlight. I'm like, that's not a highlight. He didn't do anything. So I'm not super thrilled about that pick. It might just be an experimental, maybe just based on potential.
That's right. Well, they picked a kicker considering what's his name? Gostkowski.
Yeah, he's gone. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, 6th round. The Bucs. This is another pick I like. Defensive tackle Khalil Davis out of Nebraska gets to join another Nebraska, alumni with Ndamukong Suh. This guy's a very talented defensive tackle. Absolutely love that they want to add depth to that, front seven, and they, added it with their 7th round pick as well. But this guy, I think he won an award, Big 12 award as a defensive player, if I remember correctly. But I do love that they prioritize some depth there on the defensive side of the ball. Saw some highlights. Run stopper, can get to the quarterback. I like this pick for sure.
Is he the best Khalil in the league right now?
He is. You saw my tweet?
Yeah.
He's best Khalil in the league. Best defensive player named Khalil in the league.
Yeah, better than Khalil Mack. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, that's a bold statement.
I'm not even sure who Khalil Mack is.
So the Patriots' first 6th round pick, Justin Herron out of Wake Forest. One con I had about him was he suffered a torn ACL in his 2018 season. I think he only played like 1 game. But watching his highlights were distinctly different from Michael Onwenu, in that even though he played left tackle, they played totally different positions. You did see Justin Herron kind of dominating players. He was very good in the pass block and very good in the run block. His blocking was much more impressive than Michael. I cannot express that enough. Like, you watch Michael's highlights and you're like, yeah. You watch Justin's, you're like, okay, I see something there. So I'm thrilled about that. I talked to Mr. Bucs Nation about that. He's like, oh yeah, that was a pretty good pick. There you go. It is officially a decent pick.
Yeah.
So the Patriots' 2nd, 6th rounder was Cash Maluia out of Wyoming. He's a linebacker as well. they did not give him a very good draft grade, which they've watched all the games and all that on him, so they have a little bit better understanding than I do. And one thing they said about him was that he was too aggressive at times. He would either rush up too far on the running back when attacking the ball, and which leaves room for the cutback, or he would just kind of like find himself in like the trenches, and he would just kind of like get lost. But he had 198 career tackles, 4 interceptions, 11 passes defended. He wasn't bad in coverage. They weren't high on his coverage, but from watching the highlights, he was much better in coverage than he was rushing. And he was good at making tackles. He kind of played with an attitude. He had like almost like an alpha male attitude, and he's from Compton, California. So he probably raised kind of with that attitude. I don't know how he will be. He probably won't start. Hopefully, I don't know if he'll make the roster, but hopefully he makes the practice team because I do kind of like him.
All right, let's move into the 7th round. Bucks had 2 7th rounders here. I kind of want to do these 2 together. Our first one, and they're only 4 picks apart, one of which we actually got from the Patriots. Our first one was linebacker Chappelle Russell from Temple. And then with pick 245, we got running back Raymond Calais from Louisiana. Now, here, with these 2 picks is where I would have taken Nate Stanley from Iowa. I would have loved to see him play quarterback with us and be that quarterback. And here's the reason I would have taken a quarterback in this draft and prioritized it is because obviously this is our window to be a Super Bowl contender. If Tom Brady goes down with injury or whatever the case may be, I don't necessarily think we want Blaine Gabbert taking that spot. And also, Blaine Gabbert's not going to be the guy for the future when Tom Brady retires. Get the guy in there that can get used to our system in the meantime, that can be the guy for the future. So that's why I would have taken a quarterback, maybe 5 through 7. We did sign a quarterback, undrafted, Reed Sinnett, I think his name was, from San Diego. And I could not find any highlights. So that was interesting. However, both these picks, I can't remember. I haven't been able to watch too much on either of these guys. Calais, the running back from Louisiana, I think he runs like a 4.3 40 or something like that. So one guy that can get out there and run. And then Russell, if my memory's correct, he's gone through 2 ACL injuries. So he has recovered and come back and played pretty well from them. But 2 ACL injuries is not very promising. So, but he does add the depth to the front 7. So happy to see that. Personally, I would have gone with another guy from the secondary. But both these guys can play. There's a few question marks with both of them. But I think the Bucks can use them pretty effectively. That's it for the 7th rounders.
And we only had 1 7th rounder. I mean, we had more, but we only used 1. And that was Dustin Woodard. I believe he was out of Memphis. He's a center. And once again, you try to find stats on a center. Yikes, that's hard. He started 52 games, and that was about the only stat I found about him. Other than that, he was versatile. He played center and he played both guards. So that's the kind of player that the Patriots like, is somebody who can play multiple positions. You can throw them into any kind of situation and they can work out perfectly. So, I mean, I agree with you. Once again, I really wanted the Patriots to take a quarterback. When Nate Stanley was still there in the 7th round, I was thrilled about that because he's an Iowa quarterback, or he was an Iowa quarterback, and that thrilled the booty out of me.
Well, it thrilled me too, because he's a good guy. He's a good quarterback, and also our first round pick was the guy that protected him all season. So.
Right? Yeah. They already worked together. It would have been a great pick. I don't know how he fell that far, and it also bothered me that the Patriots, I know when we did our combine video, Jamie was talking about Benjamin Victor, and he showed us the video about Benjamin Victor breaking that dude's ankles at the East-West Shrine game.
Oh.
And he went undrafted. I wanted the Patriots to take him. They didn't. He went to the Giants as an undrafted free agent. And then Thaddeus Moss, I also wanted him. He went undrafted, and he signed with the Redskins.
That was one of my surprises of the draft, seeing Thaddeus Moss not get drafted.
Right? That was shocking to me.
Speaking of tight ends, I don't think my boy Harrison Bryant got drafted.
No, Harrison Bryant from FAU.
From FAU.
He did get drafted. Hunter Bryant didn't get drafted. There were two Bryant draft.
He was my first rounder.
He didn't go in the first round, but I think he might have went day 2 at some point.
Okay.
Actually, I think he went to the Ravens.
The Raiders?
No, the Ravens.
The Ravens.
Yeah.
That's who I picked him to go to.
Really?
Yeah. But I had them as his first round pick.
Hold on. Let's Google this. Harrison. Come on. Don't make me type in the whole thing. Harrison Bryant. Oh, nope. Awkward. Division rival. Cleveland Browns.
Oh, dang it. Rip his career.
His career's
all
over.
right. Before we go. All right. If you one biggest surprise of the draft, what's your biggest surprise of the draft?
It's got to be the Packers.
Doesn't necessarily have to be Packers.
Packers trading up to draft Aaron Rodgers' replacement when Aaron Rodgers needs help.
Yeah, that was ridiculous.
And then drafting a running back in the second round when they already had Aaron Jones and Jamal Williams.
Yeah. They were my biggest loser of the draft. And the Packers fans I've seen on Twitter are just they're not happy with anything that happened over the last 3 days.
Can you imagine having such a deep wide receiver draft class?
I don't know the thought process there, but I don't know. And not taking one.
Not taking a single wide receiver.
Not one. That's crazy. That was definitely a huge surprise. Jalen Hurts was a surprise to me. I did not see the Eagles taking him, but when they did take him, I'm like, oh well, I guess that makes sense. But I don't think anyone was expecting that.
No, I don't think so.
And then I think J.K. Dobbins falling to where he did. I think he was the 4th or 5th running back taken. He was personally the second best in my opinion.
Right.
He went to the Ravens. The Ravens got a steal on that. The Ravens are going to be scary running the ball. All right, one winner, one lose. Well, we talked about the Packers. If you had another loser and one winner.
If I had another loser and one winner. Honestly, I like what the Dolphins did. I think the Dolphins have continued to win this offseason. They've been making great moves for a team that seemed like they were just complete trash and, didn't know what was happening. So I was pleasantly surprised by them. As for a loser, I don't know.
One for me was the Vikings.
The Vikings?
I had the Vikings were a winner for me. I think they had the most picks in the draft. I counted 15 total picks they had.
Oh.
They were able to replace Stephon Diggs with Justin Jefferson, and they were the ones that landed Nate Stanley. So he'll be a solid backup for Kirk Cousins and take over whenever he's gone. I had the Patriots as a loser. I'm not totally sure about that. Texans were a loser for me. Did not restock on the offensive weapons. Packers, of course. I had the Saints on there.
They only had They only had 3 picks.
Yeah, they didn't have a lot of picks. I figured they were going to take a quarterback, and they did, just not in the draft. They signed him. That was a win for them. I'm actually not sure about that. They were another team that passed on, Jacob Eason, Jake Fromm, all those boys. I could have seen them taking a quarterback. So yeah, those are a couple of winners I had too. Was the Dolphins, of course. I think the Broncos with their wide receiver picks did really good, getting Drew Lock some targets. I like the Jaguars draft, and I like what the Lions got too. I think they got 2 of the best players in their position with Jeff Okudah and DeAndre Swift.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Overall, I thought it was a pretty fun draft. Had your surprises, had your letdowns. First virtual draft. It was interesting. But I think they were still able to bring the I don't know what you call it, excitement, draft excitement. But it was still fun, and I'm happy with what we got. I personally graded the Bucs with an A-, just because their picks were so good, but there's still there's still other things they could have done. But overall, it was fun.
Yeah.
Anything else?
I think One big winner from the draft is America, because we all got to meet Bill Belichick's dog, Nike.
That was fun.
That was
That was a
fun.
lot of fun.
A big loser was Lions running back Kerryon Johnson, who saw the Lions draft two running backs in the draft.
Yeah.
So he's probably on his way out.
Jared Stidham is a winner as well.
So yes, that was one more thing. Undrafted free agent. So Jarrett Stidham was a winner because he did not see anybody come to take his job. And Patriots signed wide receiver Will Hastings as an undrafted free agent. Will Hastings also played for Auburn with Jarrett Stidham, and he was Jarrett Stidham's slot receiver. So I think there's potential for that to work out well, possibly for both of them, giving Will Hastings a chance to make the roster, as well as Jarrett Stidham kind of giving him a comfort level on the roster with somebody he's comfortable with.
Yeah, I definitely think they're going with Stidham. I'm totally not sure. Obviously, people are saying Cam Newton's going to the Patriots. At this point, I'm not sure. I think if he was, I think the Patriots would have already pulled the trigger on that.
Right.
So I think they're going for sure.
Thankfully, it's not going to be James.
No, I think you guys will regret not taking Jameis.
No, I think we missed a bullet there.
Hey, and listen, for anybody, for whoever's watching this video, I know this is a draft video, but I did want to say one thing. If you're gonna go on Twitter or Instagram with your stupid jokes about Jameis, about how he's gonna be great with the Saints because he's been thrown to them already for 5 years, the joke is not original. I've already seen it 20 times today, so just leave it. Just leave it. Just leave it in your mind and just laugh at it yourself whenever you think of it. Okay.
He's gonna have more completions to the Bucs than he ever has before.
That's gonna be fun. That's gonna be fun for the rivalry. But I'm not gonna talk any more about that.
No.
So with that being said, like this video, comment what you thought about the NFL draft. What are your surprises? Who won? Who lost? How'd your team do? Subscribe to the channel. Check us out on the socials in the description. We will see you next time on Elevated Sports.